Every single morning, millions of Americans wake up, step out of the shower, reach into their bathroom cabine, and slowly, deliberately, rub chemicals linked to cancer, hormone disruption, and reproductive damage directly into their skin. Not because they are unaware of health, not because they do not care about their bodies, but because they trust a label. They trust a brand name. They trust the word moisturizing printed in elegant font on a bottle that has been sitting in American bathrooms for decades. And here's the part that nobody in the mainstream beauty industry wants you to sit with. The FDA has officially banned only 11 ingredients from cosmetics in the entire history of the United States. 11. The European Union has banned or restricted over 1,300. Read that again. 1,300 chemicals that scientists across the Atlantic have decided are too dangerous to put on human skin. And the majority of them are still perfectly legal, still fully present, and still being sold right now, today, in American drugstores, supermarkets, and big box retailers on shelves lit by warm, flattering light. This is not a story about being paranoid. This is a story about what is actually inside those bottles and what your skin is absorbing every single day. Your skin is not a wall. That is the first thing you need to understand before anything else in this conversation makes sense. For decades, the beauty industry has leaned on the comfortable myth that what you apply topically stays on the surface, that your skin is an impenetrable fortress that filters out everything you do not want going in. That myth has been extraordinarily profitable. It has also been thoroughly dismantled by science. The skin is a highly permeable organ. It absorbs, it transports. Whatever you put on it, in measurable quantities, finds its way into your bloodstream. A landmark study by the U.S. Centers for Disease Control found detectable levels of phthalates, a class of industrial chemicals used in plastics and fragrances, in the urine of virtually every single American they tested. Not some, not most. Every single one. Think about what that means. These chemicals are getting inside human bodies so consistently and so completely that scientists cannot find a single American without them. And where are phthalates hiding in body lotions? Tucked quietly under one single word on the ingredients label: fragrance. This is where the investigation really begins. The word fragrance on a cosmetics label is one of the most consequential legal loopholes in modern consumer history. Under U.S. federal law, cosmetics companies are not required to disclose the individual chemicals that make up their fragrance formulas. These formulas are classified as trade secrets, protected by the same legal architecture designed to safeguard proprietary recipes and industrial processes. The result of this protection is that a single word, fragrance, can legally conceal a cocktail of anywhere from 50 to several hundred individual chemicals, some of which have been linked to cancer, hormone disruption, neurological damage, and severe allergic reactions. The Breast Cancer Prevention Partners analyzed publicly available data and found that many fragrance chemicals used in personal care products have essentially no publicly available safety testing. They exist, they are being used, they are going on skin, and the public has absolutely no legal right to know what they are. According to researchers and advocacy organizations who study this issue, phthalates are among the most commonly hidden fragrance chemicals, and they are endocrine disruptors, meaning they interfere with the body's hormonal signaling system in ways that researchers have linked to breast cancer, decreased fertility, preterm birth, cardiovascular problems, and developmental disruption in children. But here is where it gets worse. Phthalates are just the beginning of what is lurking inside many of the most popular body lotions sold across America. Let us talk about parabens, because parabens are the kind of ingredient that sounds almost harmless when you hear the name, but the science around them is anything but. Parabens are synthetic preservatives. They prevent bacteria and fungi from growing inside your lotion bottle, which sounds useful and reasonable. And for a long time, they were everywhere, in practically every mainstream moisturizer, lotion, cream, and body wash on the market. The problem is that parabens are hormonally active. They mimic estrogen. When they are absorbed through the skin, and they are absorbed through the skin, they can behave like estrogen in the body, binding to estrogen receptors and potentially disrupting the endocrine system. A growing body of research has connected paraben exposure to breast cancer and reproductive harm. The European Union, California, Maryland, Washington, Oregon, and Vermont have all moved to restrict or ban specific parabens, particularly isobutylparaben and isopropylparaben from cosmetic products. In the rest of the United States, however, you will still find them listed quietly near the bottom of ingredient labels under names like methylparaben, propylparaben, butylparaben, and ethylparaben. The brands that contain these ingredients are not fringe, fly-by-night operations. These are household names. These are the lotions your mother used. These are the lotions sitting right now in bathrooms across the country, in hospitals and nurseries, in pediatricians' offices, waiting rooms. Products from brands like Jergens, Bath and Body Works, and countless others in the conventional drugstore skincare category have historically contained parabens, synthetic fragrances, and other flagged ingredients. The Environmental Working Group, one of the most rigorous independent watchdog organizations tracking chemicals and personal care products, maintains a publicly accessible database called Skin Deep that rates cosmetic products based on nearly 60 integrated toxicity, regulatory, and scientific study databases. When you run some of America's most beloved body lotion products through that database, the results are sobering. And yet the industry continues to market these products with the same warm, reassuring language it has always used. Nourishing, hydrating, soft skin, gentle formula. The labels do not lie exactly. They simply do not tell the whole story. And in the gap between what those labels say and what those ingredient lists actually contain, an enormous amount of damage is being done to human bodies quietly, gradually, cumulatively, over years and decades of daily use. Now let us go deeper, because the paraben and phthalate conversation, as alarming as it is only part of this picture. Mineral oil. If you have used a mainstream body lotion in the last 50 years, you have almost certainly used mineral oil. It is one of the most common ingredients in conventional moisturizers, appearing under names like liquid paraffin, petrolatum, or microcrystalline wax, and it is derived directly from petroleum. Yes, the same foundational substance that fuels your car. The beauty industry adopted mineral oil decades ago because it is cheap, abundantly available, and it does create a temporary sensation of smooth, soft skin. What it does not do is actually moisturize. Mineral oil works by creating an occlusive barrier on the surface of the skin, trapping moisture that is already there. It does not deliver nutrients. It does not penetrate. It sits on top of you like a film of petroleum, because that is exactly what it is. The concern, beyond its purely cosmetic ineffectiveness as a skin-nourishing ingredient, is that petroleum-derived ingredients that are not fully refined can carry contamination from polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons, which are known carcinogens. The EU has moved to restrict certain petroleum-derived cosmetic ingredients over exactly these concerns. In the US, mineral oil remains one of the most common ingredients in drugstore body lotions, and its use is completely unrestricted. Think about what that means. Millions of people are rubbing petroleum byproducts onto their skin every single day, believing they are moisturizing, when the product they are using is not delivering nourishment, but simply sealing in whatever moisture was already there, while potentially introducing contamination from the refining process. And this is one of the ingredients that the industry points to as safe and effective. Then there is formaldehyde. Not formaldehyde, listed directly on the label. That would be too obvious, and consumers have become aware enough that they might actually notice. Instead, what you find in many body lotions are formaldehyde, releasing preservatives, a class of chemicals that slowly break down over time inside the product, and that release formaldehyde as a byproduct. DMDM hydantoin is one of the most common. Quaternium-15 is another. In 2011, the U.S. National Toxicology Program formally classified formaldehyde as a known human carcinogen. Known. Not suspected, not under investigation. Known. And yet, ingredients that release it are still present in body lotions, hair products, baby shampoos, and body washes sold legally across the United States. Washington State passed a broad-reaching ban on formaldehyde and 25 formaldehyde-releasing chemicals in cosmetics, with full implementation expected in 2027. California, Maryland, Oregon, and Vermont have also moved against these ingredients. The rest of the country remains largely unprotected. Here's where the story shifts, because it is not just about what the industry is putting into these products. It is also about what the regulatory system has failed to do about it. The FDA's authority over cosmetics has been described by consumer safety experts and independent researchers as dangerously limited. Under current law, cosmetics companies do not have to register with the FDA before selling their products. They do not have to provide the FDA with their ingredient formulations. They are not required to adopt good manufacturing practices. They do not have to report adverse events, meaning that if consumers are experiencing health reactions to their products, the company has no legal obligation to tell the FDA. The agency, in turn, cannot order a mandatory recall when a cosmetic product poses a safety risk. It can only ask, politely, without legal compulsion, for a voluntary recall. The contrast with how food, drugs, and medical devices are regulated in this country is staggering. For those categories, companies must register, disclose, maintain records, report adverse events, and submit to FDA oversight. For something you rub onto your entire body every single morning, the standard is dramatically, almost incomprehensibly lower. The cosmetics industry has been regulating itself, and the evidence suggests that it has not been doing a particularly thorough job. Now, what the mainstream media typically does at this point in the story is list some scary chemicals, wave vaguely at the regulatory system, and leave the viewer feeling anxious but uninformed. What most people are not seeing is the systematic, specific pattern of which products carry the highest risk profiles, what the risk actually means in cumulative terms, and more importantly, what the real alternatives look like, and why they are different not just in marketing language, but in actual molecular chemistry. Let us start with the cumulative exposure problem, because this is the piece that even health-conscious consumers tend to underestimate. The toxicological harm from most of these ingredients is not acute. You will not apply your body lotion tonight and feel sick tomorrow morning. What you will do is apply it tomorrow morning and the morning after that, and every morning for the next 5, 10, or 20 years. And across that timeline, the parabens accumulate in tissue. The phthalates accumulate in the bloodstream. The formaldehyde-releasing preservatives do their slow chemical work. The endocrine disruption from compounds that mimic estrogen does not announce itself with a dramatic symptom. It manifests years later in fertility issues, hormonal imbalances, or an elevated cancer risk that a doctor will struggle to trace back to a specific cause. Emily Barrett, an epidemiologist at the Rutgers School of Public Health, put it plainly in research discussed in 2025, these chemicals may not cause an obvious, immediate outcome. They might instead mean that 20 years from now, a person is at a greater risk of breast cancer or fertility problems. The damage is slow, quiet, and cumulative. And then there is the synergistic effect, the part that the safety testing almost never accounts for. Most toxicological studies test individual chemicals in isolation at specific concentrations. They find a threshold below which the ingredient appears safe. What those studies cannot adequately model is what happens when you combine ingredient A with ingredient B, layer an ingredient C from your body wash, add ingredient D from your deodorant, and then do that every day for years. The human body is simultaneously absorbing a complex chemical mixture from multiple products, and the interaction effects of those combinations are, according to independent researchers, almost entirely unstudied. You are, in a very real sense, participating in an uncontrolled, long-term chemical experiment, and the beauty industry has never been required to tell you that. So which products specifically carry the highest concern profiles? According to the Environmental Working Group's Skin Deep database, which cross-references product formulations against nearly 60 scientific and regulatory databases, a significant portion of the most popular conventional body lotions sold in the United States contain multiple ingredients of concern. Products from major conventional brands in the drugstore category routinely receive moderate to high hazard ratings when their full ingredient lists are evaluated against this criteria. EOS Body Lotions, which became one of the fastest growing body lotion brands in 2024, with 50 bottles sold every minute according to Nielsen data, had at least 15 product variations rated as moderate hazard by the EWG, and 3 rated as high hazard, including the Cucumber, Berry Blossom, and Delicate Petals formulations from 2019. The high hazard ratings were driven by ingredients including butylphenyl methylpropional, a fragrance chemical that was banned from EU and UK cosmetics in 2022 due to its hormone-disrupting properties and classification as a carcinogenic, mutagenic, or reprotoxic substance under European guidelines. That same ingredient was still permitted and present in US products. Bath & Body Works, a brand with an almost cult-like consumer following and an annual revenue that places it among the most powerful players in the American personal care market, has been a consistent subject of concern for independent product safety analysts. Its products are almost universally heavily fragranced, and that fragrance, by definition, given the legal structure described earlier, is not disclosed at the ingredient level. The synthetic fragrance systems in conventional Bath & Body Works products are the kind that independent researchers flag as likely carriers of undisclosed phthalates and other endocrine-disrupting chemicals. The company has made some public commitments around transparency in recent years, but full disclosure of fragrance ingredients remains an industry-wide gap, and consumers have no reliable mechanism to verify claims. Vaseline, the iconic petroleum jelly and petroleum-based lotion brand owned by Unilever, represents perhaps the most visible example of the mineral oil problem at scale. Vaseline intensive care body lotions contain mineral oil derivatives as core active ingredients, and while the brand has decades of consumer trust, the fundamental chemistry of what these products deliver, a petroleum-derived occlusive that sits on the skin rather than nourishing it, with potential contamination concerns from incomplete refining, has not changed. The product does what it has always done. The question is whether what it does is actually good for skin health, or whether it is simply a sensation of smoothness produced by a chemical film. Jergens, another staple of American bathroom cabinets for over a century, follows a similar conventional formulation pattern. The Jergens Skin Firming Body Lotion that reviewers praise for its fresh scent and firming properties contains synthetic fragrance systems that, under the existing legal framework, do not require ingredient-level disclosure. The creamy textures and pleasant sensory experiences these products deliver are real. The ingredient story underneath those textures is considerably more complex. Nivea, owned by Beiersdorf, is another name that appears on the toxic ingredient radar consistently. Its conventional body lotion formulations have contained mineral oil, paraben preservative systems, and synthetic fragrance cocktails, all under the umbrella of a brand that many consumers associate with simplicity and gentleness. The brand's blue tin has been in medicine cabinets since 1911, but the formulation of trust is not the same as the formulation of safety, and a century-old brand name is not the same as a century of ingredient safety testing. Hemp's moisturizing skin lotion, celebrated in consumer reviews for its wide variety of fragrance options, sits squarely in the category of highly fragranced conventional lotions, where the question of what exactly is in that fragrance system cannot be answered by reading the label. The hemp seed oil it contains has genuine moisturizing properties. But hemp seed oil does not neutralize an undisclosed fragrance system, and the overall ingredient profile of heavily fragranced conventional products remains a concern for anyone applying them daily across large surface areas of skin. The Neutrogena body lotion line, marketed with clinical-sounding language and dermatologist association, similarly uses conventional preservative and fragrance systems that include ingredients flagged by independent safety databases. The dermatologist association on these labels does not mean that a dermatologist tested the ingredients for long-term toxicity. It typically means that the product was tested for skin tolerance in the short-term context of clinical trials, a fundamentally different standard than cumulative safety across years of use. Gold Bond products from the Chatham division of Sanofi represent the medicated skincare category and carry a strong association with therapeutic efficacy. But the conventional Gold Bond formulations contain mineral oil, petrolatum, fragrance, and preservative systems that include ingredients of concern. The therapeutic reputation of a brand does not guarantee the safety profile of every chemical in its formulations. Saint, Ives body lotion, once one of the most recognizable drugstore skincare brands in America with its natural-sounding name and fruit and botanical imagery, has formulations that consistently include synthetic fragrance, parabens in some variants, and a general ingredient philosophy anchored in conventional chemistry rather than transparency or safety prioritization. The natural-sounding name is marketing. The ingredient list is reality. Lubriderm, despite winning praise in product reviews for its moisturizing performance and long-lasting texture, uses mineral oil-derived ingredients and conventional preservative systems in its core formulations. Its performance credentials are genuine. Its safety profile under independent evaluation is more nuanced than the clean, clinical packaging suggests. And then there is the clean beauty category, which has become one of the most important and most problematic developments in the skincare market over the last decade, because it has created a new layer of consumer confusion on top of an already opaque system. Hundreds of brands now market themselves as clean, green, natural, organic, or toxin-free. And consumers who have become aware of the chemical concerns described in this script are gravitating toward these products in enormous numbers. The clean beauty market has grown dramatically, driven by exactly the kind of informed consumer anxiety that the evidence warrants. But here's the trap. The words clean, green, natural, and non-toxic on a cosmetics label are not regulated by any federal body. They do not mean anything legally. They are marketing language, freely available to any company that decides to use them, regardless of what is in the bottle. A product that calls itself natural can still contain synthetic fragrance. A product marketed as clean can still contain phenoxyethanol, a preservative that was partly adopted precisely because it was seen as a cleaner alternative to parabens, but which is synthesized using industrial chemicals linked to cancer and genetic harm, and which has raised its own set of concerns among independent safety researchers. This is not chaos, this is strategy. The industry creates a problem, consumers become aware of the problem, the industry creates a new marketing language to address consumer anxiety, and then uses that language to sell products that are, in many cases, not substantively safer than what came before. The loop continues. The consumer remains confused, the profits remain secure. So what does genuinely safer look like? Because that is the question that matters, and it deserves a real answer rather than a vague gesture toward nature. The genuine safety tier in body lotions is defined not by marketing claims, but by third-party certification systems that actually evaluate ingredient lists against scientific databases. The Environmental Working Group's EWG verified label is one of the most rigorous of these. To earn it, a product must meet strict standards for ingredient transparency, including full disclosure of fragrance ingredients, and every ingredient must clear a review by EWG's team of toxicologists and chemists against their scientific databases. The Made Safe certification, developed in partnership with organizations including Consumer Reports, focuses specifically on human health and environmental impact, evaluating whether every ingredient in a product has been assessed for known or suspected harm. USDA organic certification, when applied to personal care products, ensures that the agricultural ingredients in the formulation were produced without synthetic pesticides and are subject to verified organic standards, though it does not cover the safety of non-agricultural ingredients. The brands that have earned these designations represent a different category of product, not just in marketing language, but in actual formulation philosophy. Attitude body lotions, which have earned EWG verified status across multiple product lines, use ingredient systems built around shea butter, avocado oil, mango butter, and moringa seed extract, formulated without synthetic fragrance, parabens, mineral oil, or other flagged preservative systems. They have also committed to full fragrance ingredient disclosure, meaning that the scented versions of their products list every single component of their fragrance formula, rather than hiding it behind the trade secret exemption. Dr. Bronner's Organic Hand and Body Lotion carries both USDA organic certification and fair trade certification, and its ingredient list is built around certified organic coconut oil, jojoba oil, and hemp seed oil, ingredients with clear, established safety profiles and genuine skin nourishment properties. The formulation philosophy is one of radical transparency and minimalism. If an ingredient cannot be certified organic and cannot be verified as safe, it does not go in the bottle. The Everyone 3-in-1 lotion from EO Products is another EWG verified option that has earned a place in the genuine safety tier, offering a formulation built around plant-derived ingredients with full transparency about every component, including fragrance. Nourish Organic. Moisturizing. Shea butter takes the minimalism principle to its logical conclusion. One ingredient certified organic. No preservatives needed because there's no water in the formula. No fragrance because there's nothing to mask. Just shea butter, one of the most effective natural emollients known to dermatology, performing the function it has performed for communities in West Africa for thousands of years. And this is where everything changes, because the genuine alternative to conventional body lotion is not a compromise. The science of skin moisturization does not require petroleum derivatives, synthetic preservatives, or fragrance cocktails. Ingredients like jojoba oil, which molecularly resembles human sebum and absorbs into the skin without leaving a petroleum film, are supported by genuine dermatological research. Shea butter contains triterpene alcohols with documented anti-inflammatory properties. Coconut oil, when certified organic and cold-pressed, provides lauric acid with antimicrobial properties and genuine barrier restoration. These are not wellness trends. They are materials with established biochemical relationships with human skin, used for centuries across cultures before the petrochemical industry decided that mineral oil was a more cost-efficient substitute. The difference in price between conventional drugstore lotions and genuinely clean alternatives has narrowed significantly in recent years. The growth of the non-toxic personal care market, combined with increased competition among clean brands, has pushed prices down to ranges where meaningful alternatives are accessible to most consumers. The Everyone lotion, for example, is available at price points comparable to mid-range conventional drugstore options. Attitude products are available at mainstream retailers. Dr. Bronner's, once a product primarily available in health food stores, is now stocked in Target and major supermarkets. But here is the final piece of this story that most people are missing, and it is perhaps the most strategically important. The regulatory landscape is shifting, but slowly and unevenly, and state by state rather than nationally. California passed the Toxic-Free Cosmetics Act, which restricts the use of formaldehyde and other intentionally added toxic chemicals in cosmetics, and took effect in January 2025. Washington State passed a broad ban on formaldehyde-releasing chemicals in cosmetics, effective 2027. The Toxic-Free Beauty Act of 2025, introduced in the U.S. House of Representatives, would ban 18 of the most hazardous chemicals from cosmetics nationally, including mercury, parabens, lead, and formaldehyde-releasing preservatives. As of this writing, the bill remains in committee and is not expected to pass in the near term. The Personal Care Products Council, the primary industry lobbying group, has characterized it as well-intentioned but premature. Premature? That is the word the industry used about banning formaldehyde-releasing chemicals from cosmetics that go on human skin every day. Premature, while the European Union has already done it, while California has already done it, while Washington State has already done it. The question of what ends up on American skin is, at this moment, less a question of science than a question of politics, lobbying power, and the extraordinary inertia of an industry that has been largely self-regulated for more than a century. The science on these ingredients is not ambiguous. The regulatory gap between the United States and the European Union is not ambiguous. What is ambiguous is when, and whether, the federal system will respond to that evidence in a way that protects consumers rather than protecting market access. Until it does, the decision is entirely yours. Not because it should be. Not because this is a fair system in which consumers should bear the burden of becoming amateur toxicologists every time they walk into a drugstore, but because it is the system that exists right now, today, in the year 2026, in the most powerful consumer economy on Earth, where you are simultaneously surrounded by extraordinary abundance and almost entirely unprotected from the chemistry inside the bottles that line your bathroom shelf. The lotion you reach for tomorrow morning will absorb into your skin within minutes. The chemicals it contains will reach your bloodstream. Whatever those chemicals are, and now you know how to find out, they will do their work quietly over months and years and decades. The companies that made those products have already made their choices about what goes inside them. Those choices were made in formulation labs, guided by cost targets, shelf life requirements, consumer scent preferences, and legal minimums, rather than genuine safety maximums. The only remaining question is whether you are going to keep making their choice for them or start making your own. And if history is any guide, the industry will be watching very carefully to see what you decide.